Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review number 328. Today we're going to talk about Artificium. This is a new game being released by Asmodee, and it is a card game. It plays 2 to 6 players, and if there was ever a resource conversion game, this is it. Now don't let that scare you away. I know that's kind of a thing that modern Euros kind of do. It's like, okay, you turn this good into points and back and forth and all that. This really is all the game is about, but because it attacks it from such a pure perspective, it actually makes the game a little bit interesting. Now, Artificium has a typical theme of a medieval ruler and medieval craftsmen trying to be efficient about how they convert goods. The game comes with a large deck of cards. Each card on it has some iconography representing the different goods that can be converted using the cards. In this case here, you can see you can turn wheat into beer. And in this case, you'll score 2 points when you play the card. Some cards won't give you any points, but instead they'll give you a special action. Like for example, in this case, this one will let you retrieve a card you previously played during this round. The game comes with a large score track, and each player is going to have a little token in their player color that they're going to move along the score track. And when you reach or pass various spots on the board, you're going to be able to collect whatever good is depicted on that space. The game takes place over 4 rounds. At the end of the 4 rounds, you're going to see who has the most points, and that'll be the winner. Each player will get a player board in their color, and they'll get a handful of resource tokens that they'll place to the side of their board. Any resource tokens that are off your board are considered coins or gold. When a token is on your board, it's considered whatever type of good that it's in the space of. So you can see here what you're going to be doing is converting some goods into other goods, and those are going to be worth more coins and help you to convert and create better and better items. To start the game, you're going to draw 5 cards, and then based on the number of players, you're going to deal out a certain number of cards face up to the center of the table. Then starting with whoever has the first player token, players are going to take turns drafting these cards. So you've got 2 phases in the game. You've got a sort of a draft phase where you're actually going to be swapping cards with what's out there on the table. So you'll take one card, put it in the center of the table, and then replace that in your hand with another card from the table. You're going to go around and do that once. Now you can pass. If you're happy with the hand that you have, you can just pass and that's it for you. But if you go back around the table, then every sort of draft or exchange that's possible, you're going to have to pay 2 coins for. So one very simple example that you might do is, let's say you had 2 of the same card. You can see these 2 cards here. Each of them is going to give you 2 wood. Well, maybe you don't want duplicates of that card. So you see another card out there that lets you actually convert wood into food. So you swap one of the duplicate cards, replacing it with the card on the table, and now you've got a little bit of a combo set up in your hand. This drafting phase is what I think is the crux of the whole game. And I'm gonna get into a little bit of the review portion here, but I will mention that the reason that I like this game with more than 2 players is because of the drafting phase. It's very feasible with 2 and even 3 players for 1 or 2 players to kind of get dealt a very nice hand, and they're kind of off and running, and then you are kind of stuck with, okay, I don't really have that great of a combo set up and I'd like to do some exchanging. Well, nobody else is really in there exchanging cards, so the possibilities are sort of limited in that sense when you're playing with less players. But as you play with more players, there's a little bit more trading happening, and so the game's a little bit more interesting that way. So I will also say that you have to really plan for the long game in this. It doesn't really seem like it the first time you play it, but you really kind of have to plan for the long game and really realize what the deck is made up of before you really can attack the game, strategically or smartly. So after the drafting phase is over, then players are going to go into the playing cards phase, and that's very simply just playing cards in front of you and then taking whatever action or collecting whatever goods are depicted. So let's take a look at some of the cards. Now this first card, for example, when you play this card, you're going to acquire 2 wheat and score 1 point. So you'll get your 2 wheat from the supply onto your player board, and then you'll go up 1 point on the track and collecting any goods that you might have passed over. Here's another simple example of we're going to collect 2 wood and also collect 1 point. And this actually combos nicely with our next card, where we can convert 1 wood into food and score 2 points. So you'll take whatever wood you have on the board and then move that up into the wood space, literally converting that wood into food. Now let's say you didn't have the 2 wood card, but you had the other card that converted wood into something else. Well, at any time on your turn, you can buy and sell the goods right on your player board. Let me explain how that works. So we can see on the wood space there's two numbers. There's a green number and a red number. The green number is the cost to actually buy the wood. So you can take 2 of your resource tokens that are off your board, because remember those are considered gold, spend those, and then put a token in the wood space from the supply, and now you've got 1 wood. Likewise, you can also remove a wood and sell it for 1 gold. That's the number in red there. So you can buy and sell as much as you want. So as we move up the resource track here, you can see we've got more cards converting wood into crystals somehow. This will scores 3 points, and now we have some crystals. Some of the higher up goods will require 2 of the lesser goods. So this is a bag of coal and some iron, and with this you can make a sword. And then on the top of the board here, you can actually see on the left hand side we have the wizard, and on the right hand side we have the knight. And these are sort of the special cards that we're trying to achieve, and when you build a knight or a wizard, a special effect will happen. Before we talk about the knights, we'll show you some of the special ability cards. We can see this one here allows us to actually steal a card at random from somebody else's hand, and then they'll draw a new card off the deck. You notice this doesn't actually score us any points. And the next one, which I've already showed you, allows you to replay a card that you've already played. So maybe you played a card to convert wood into food, and you had an extra wood laid over so that you wanted to do it again. So you can play this card, and then the next time it comes around to you, you can play the other card and do it again. There's a couple of other special cards I should make note of. This card, for example, when you play this, you get 2 coins for each card you've already played that round. And you can actually play this card for great effect, which I'll show you in a second. But finally, let's talk about the knight and the wizard. So first we have the knight. You can see this costs actually 3 things. It costs the barrel of beer, the sword, and 1 coin. And the wizard has a similar cost. It costs a barrel of beer, a coin, and also a potion. And each of these scores you 8 points. So the knight and the wizard are very powerful cards. What the wizard lets you do, in addition to scoring 8 points, is you get to draw 5 cards off the deck, and then you discard 3, but now you've got some extra cards and you get some more actions that turn, because you're just going to keep playing until you run out of cards or you choose to pass. Now when you play the knight, you're going to score 8 points, but you also get to move somebody else backwards 4 points on the track. So if you've seen from the knight, and the other card that lets you steal somebody else's card, and there's also another card would let you pay a little bit extra coins and then steal actually somebody's resource from their board and move it over to your board. So there's a lot of take that in this game, which is usually not the case with these kind of basic Euro card games. And it's another reason that I don't care for the 2-player game, because it is very easy to pin somebody down and really run away with it. Whereas when you play with more players, it acts as sort of a balancing mechanism in keeping somebody from running away with it. Because like I said, you can actually play that 2-coin card to get 2 coins for each card that you've played, get a lot of coins, you're going to get a lot of momentum that way, but that does make you a right target. Finally, at the end of each round, you can sell off any goods from your player board. This is going to give you some extra cash to go into the drafting phase in the following round. At the end of the last round, you're going to sell off any goods, and for every 4 goods you get, you're going to get 1 point. Okay, so that's how you play the game. Now, what do I think about it? Well, I've talked a little bit about how player count comes involved, and I really don't ever want to play this with 2 players, or even really 3 players. I really like this with 4 or more players. Now, the cool thing about it is the whole drafting thing. And as I said earlier in the review, you've got to be very sort of cognizant of the long-term planning. Now you can get to a point where, you score a tower or something even in the first round. If the cards really set themselves up for you, then you can play the wizard tower or play the knight and get that going. But you have to be very careful about what you put into the draft pile, because if you see somebody's got a certain amount of resources and they're like, oh, if I give them this, then they'll be able to convert this into a sword, and I bet they have a knight in their hand and they'll be able to score that. So you start to see the value of cards in different situations as you play the game a couple of times. So I really like that. And the whole drafting thing, keeping money aside to get some extra rounds on the drafting. And it plays very light and casual. I think the box is like 20 minutes to an hour, and that definitely, once everybody has played it, even with a large player count, you can really kind of just play and play and play. So you get some cool combos where you get some big conversions or you get a lot of money, but it's very basic and very straightforward. But again, take that aspect of it, I think, kills it with the lower player count. It might kill it for some people with the larger player count, but the gameplay is so quick and easy that I don't really seem like it's not a problem for me, for example. But you know, a lot of people don't like to take that, or you know, being moved backwards on the score track is kind of a deal breaker. But you know, in my experience, that didn't really happen with this game. So it's a nice, quick, straightforward you know, Euro card game, and it's interesting because it's like, you know, Euros kind of get knocked for being Euro conversion, you know, resource conversion games. This is just, that's all the game is resource conversion. There's nothing else. But it's cool. It's interesting how you can kind of manipulate your little player board and squeeze out that last little bit of money to, you know, oh, well, if I buy the iron this round, then I can, you know, do this. And so I can do that and actually make a little bit of extra money that way. So that is Artificium. Thanks.